Well, the under-23s grand final has just kicked off between St George and Parramatta. Let's take you now to our commentary team, David Fordham and Wayne Pearce.
Ryan Jackson to his feet. Parramatta in possession of the ball. It goes out through Emery. Then to Blair Kurtz. But he's wrapped up about 8 metres from the halfway line. Young Guider in there, the hooker for St George, effecting the tackle. And there's a knock-on from Andrew Mack, and it's away. There's a chance for St George. First points on the board for the St George Dragons. It's St George leading 6-0 in the under-23 grand final. See, the St George defence means business, Wayne.
Certainly are moving up quick, but that's where all defences do on their own line.
There's the kick through from Emery. There's a chance. Try to Parramatta.
Well, David, I certainly had a little bit of luck there. It came off the upright, straight into the Parramatta player's hands and over the line.
Ryan Jackson was the man that came through. There's the kick through. And watch Jackson. The bounce off the post. For Parramatta fans, it's room for elation because it is now 12 points to 6 in favour of Parramatta. Dennis Fitzgerald said that Ryan Jackson was going to be a star in this grand final. I can tell you he's just scored his second try in the space of a few minutes. The good break made by Parramatta and great finishing work, Wayne Pearce, from the young centre Ryan Jackson. He's only 19.
He certainly isn't. He's on the spot. You know, that was a break by one of the forwards there, Kevin Manning, and he was on the spot, came in from the centre to back up.
So yes, we've got 7 minutes and 46 seconds left to half-time, and St George with the job ahead of them. They're on the attack. The pass away. It's a try to Glenn Montgomery, and St George have fought back. It's 12 points to 10. But McClintock puts the ball off his right boot. It's straight between the uprights, and it's all back on level terms here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It's 12 points all. 5 metres out, less than that from the Parramatta line. Guider from dummy half goes on his own. The gap open. There's a chance for St George. It's a try to Michael McClintock, the captain of the St George side, and St George back in the ball game. With the kick to come, they trail by only 2 points. It's 18 points to 16. And this will tie the ball game up. McClintock's kick from 5 metres to the left of the uprights. It goes right over the black dot. And it's 18 all in the under-23 grand. Well, Emery has just taken play inside St George's territory. Surge on the boil for Parramatta. It's 18 all in this grand final in under-23. Should it go to that scoreline at the end of this match, it's 10 minutes each way, extra time. But Parramatta looking strong. Jackson. Ball through for Emery, but St George defence is there, and a penalty that will relieve pressure on the St George line. They've fought back twice in this grand final, and it's 18 points all. Well, one of the great personalities of rugby league over the years, he's seen I don't know how many grand finals, is Frank Hyde. He's with Graham Hughes.
Thanks, David. Frank, what grand final does this make it?
This is my 33rd, Graham. Long time, isn't it?
Still as much enthusiasm?
Oh, yes. The atmosphere is here all the time, you know. The adrenaline flows. And this is the... I did 31 as a description, but I've been 2 years, of course, as a commentator with the UE.
Which way are you going?
Well, you know, it's difficult, impossible, really, to nominate a winner because of the inconsistencies throughout the year. I'll say this. If Canterbury today is the Canterbury of last Sunday, I tip Canterbury Bankstown. But if they're the Canterbury of the week before and the week before that, I certainly go for St George.
All right, David Fordham, there's an undecided Frank Hyde.
Frank Hyde probably getting splinters in his backside from sitting on the fence, Wayne, as the break's made by Freestone up towards the 10-metre line, still in St George territory. Well, one of the great personalities and one of the great gentlemen of the code, Wayne, is Frank Hyde, and 33 grand finals. I think he knows what he's talking about.
The way I'm going, I'll be lucky to live to 33 years of age. I don't see that many grand finals.
Well, Gerard affects the tackle as Weil gets to his feet. It's taken upfield by Clark, the big bust made by St George.
Good bust there by Cole Fraser.
Taking play up towards the quarter, St George on the boil. Freestone has support on the inside and outside. But the defence is there, mainly through Blair Kurtz coming over the top. So Parramatta with the ball. It's 18-all.
Well, St George shouldn't have really made that break. It's been tit for tat this game so far, so it's Parramatta's turn to score. So I hope St George stick to the rules.
Lance Rickett taking play up to the quarter line. Emery stepping, nowhere to go, and that St George defence is there, but the bust is made. There's the great young player Jackson backing up, and South Parramatta with the overlap. Surge in the clear. A chance for Parramatta, but the ball's gone loose. But they retain it. 6 more tackles to go, and Parramatta with the pressure put on St George, the minor premiers. That's Emery, the captain. But good defence by St George. Surge slips into dummy half. He goes on his own and gets to the quarter line. And a penalty against St George. And a chance for the ever-reliable goal kicker, David Perry, to put Parramatta in the lead. It's 18-all in the grand final and 14 minutes of play left.
Well, David, you can see players are starting to get a little bit tired. The gaps are starting to appear. It's really a test of resilience here. Who can really last out the longest in this last 14 minutes of the game?
Well, a replacement coming on for the St George side. And what a crucial stage of this match. The player coming on is David Edwards. There's a famous name from Balmain days gone past, Wayne, but not the same player.
I don't believe it, unless he's been reincarnated. I don't think it's the same man.
And also we have on, look, there's another player that's come out there also, is Shane Flanagan. So 2 replacements in the St George side. So David Perry, the leading point scorer in under-23s. I mentioned at the beginning of this match that goal kicking could well decide this match. And this man has been ever consistent. But if ever he wanted to kick a goal in season 1985 with 13 minutes left on the clock and a chance to put the Eels in the lead, this is the one that David Perry wants. The crowd will tell the story. The flags go up and Parramatta in the lead. In the under-23 grand final, they lead the minor premiers St George by 20 points to 18. We'll take a break and be back with all the action in just a moment.
All around the globe, underneath
St George. It's 10 minutes remaining in this grand final. Edwards turned it back to Clark, and Flanagan again wrapped up 10 metres out or 12 metres out, and that's the last tackle. So the turnover goes to Parramatta. Well, this will be one of the big boilovers of the season, Wayne, if Parramatta can hang on to this 2-point lead.
Certainly would. This side was, I believe, 4-1 on to win this game. So if Parramatta can get up, they certainly will hoist that Parramatta flag high over Cumberland Stadium.
Well, when they arrived at the Sydney Cricket Ground last week for the preliminary final, they were regarded as the underdogs in that match against Cronulla, who finished second on the premiership table. But Lance Rickett, the fullback, sparked the Parramatta side in that second half with 2 tries in the space of 5 minutes, and they ran away winners by 23 points to 14 to earn a right to play the premiership favourite St George, as Towler makes the break up towards halfway, and he's finally taken in the tackle by Surge over the top, right in the middle of the Sydney Cricket Ground. So Ashley Wilde goes into dummy half. He makes the break and the bust. Takes play 10 metres inside Parramatta's end of the ground. It's Edwards in a dummy half. Walsh, Conti, but the ball's knocked down, and finally it's a Parramatta ball, but the referee Annesley will rule the knock on each way, and the scrum will go down midway between the half and the quarter line at Parramatta's end of the ground. So the situation is just over 9 minutes remaining, and it's Parramatta leading by 20 points to 18. 3 tries apiece. Both goal kickers have 100% record here at the cricket ground this afternoon, but David Perry has kicked 4 from 4, as opposed to McClintock's 3 from 3 from St George. And that's the difference in the ball game, 2 points.
Well, David, St George are in a situation where they've got to take a few risks, throw a few risky passes and get down into a position where they can put pressure on the Parramatta team.
Freestone runs from dummy half. He comes to Jackson, and he's finally put on the ground. Towler goes into dummy half for St George. Pass came back infield from Walsh. Now Towler. That was good thinking from the left winger from St George. The last tackle, will we see the ball go in the air? Edwards is calling for it. But Towler very slow to his feet. Guider a dummy half. Edwards. There's the kick from Wild. Rickett came back. But finally it was the winger on the far side, McAvoy, that relieved the pressure for Parramatta. Oh, there's a fundamental error from the Eels and a chance for St George to launch yet another attack. Edwards charges at the line. He's only 2 metres short. What a good run from the replacement forward. Guider through the dummy. Gerard was in there as well as Jason Emery to effect the tackle. You can hear the roar of the crowd here at the cricket ground. St George trailing by 2 points, and the crowd building up in expectation of 2 other great grand finals to follow. St George on the attack, 8 metres out from the Parramatta line. It goes out through Edwards, a long pass out to Freestone. Freestone has Conti in support, but a great tackle that time from Mansfield. Conti from dummy half, puts the kick through. There's a try. It's a try to St George, and the red and white flags go up. That's put the Premiers in the lead. And who's come up with it?
Flanagan.
It's a replacement player, Flanagan. Well, Johnny Jansen, a masterstroke there, Wayne Pearce, bringing on Flanagan.
Flanagan super sub here. He was in position.
The
charge
kick from Conti.
Charged through. There was a bit of lack of understanding of the Parramatta players there, and well, Flanagan came up with it.
So Flanagan comes up with the goods and puts the Premiers in the lead. It came in this fashion. Conti, the centre, kicked it. It put pressure on the fullback Rickett. And there's the strength of Flanagan. And that's a moment he'll cherish for a long, long time. Only a youngster, Shane Flanagan. And he scored the try that's put St George into the lead and possibly a win in this grand final. McClintock, 3 goals from 3 attempts. It's 22 points to 20 and a chance for McClintock to give the Dragons a 4-point lead. There's the kick. The flags go up. The Dragons lead by 4 with just over 5 minutes remaining in this grand final. St George 24, Parramatta 20, and we'll be back with the action in just a moment. Back. I think that's a big question, Wayne. They've come back twice in this match so far.
They certainly have, but if you notice the St George defence, how much they've picked themselves up. That kick then, there was about 10 guys down there surrounding the kicker. The receiver, he had nowhere to run.
So a chance for St George to start the day off on a winning note. They have 3 teams in the grand final here this afternoon. And what a way, I can imagine the jubilation out Cogra Overway and more particularly across the road of the St George Leagues Club, watching this telecast at the moment for those people unfortunate enough not to be part of this vast crowd here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. But it's been a tremendous atmosphere here so far, and we can tell our fans that we'll be crossing to Tony Peters of the St George Leagues Club straight after grand final. Guider now with the ball.
I'm sure that St George will just take the play straight up off the ruck 3 or 4 times, kick the ball down deep into the Parramatta territory. Oh, it's a break made here.
Edwards was the man that made the break. And the injury this time to Jim Walsh. And that will slow down the momentum, but it's St George in the lead by 4 points. Tries have been scored by Freestone, Montgomery, McClintock and Flanagan. And McClintock has kicked 4 goals from 4 attempts. And for Parramatta, 2 tries to Brian Jackson, another to Glenn Mansfield, which Jackson had a hand in. And Perry has also kicked 4 from 4. We'll be giving an award of $250 and a match ball for the man of the match today by courtesy of NEC. And gee, I'd find it very hard to go past that young 19-year-old centre from Parramatta, Ryan Jackson. I don't know what your thoughts are, Wayne.
Yes, Jackson's had an outstanding game. You know, there's Mansfield's also had a big game from Parramatta. Chris Guider and Freestone from St George, I believe, have also been going very strongly.
St George Conti left the ball behind him, and Parramatta back in possession inside their own quarter line. So to his feet is Blair Kurtz. And the halfback Cocos is caught right on the quarter line. Members stand into the ground here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. It's the replacement for Gerard. The ball loose on the ground. It's a St George ball. And St George in possession of the ball with a minute 16 remaining in this grand final. Guider. Oh, and it's Edwards that loses the ball. And Parramatta come back in possession through their halfback Cocos. Went out through Gerard and in turn for Mansfield. Right on the quarter line, St George's defence, in fact it's 10 metres outside the quarter line. Parramatta in possession. Cocos out through Henry. The long pass over Jackson and got to Emery, the right winger for Parramatta. Now Jackson, the run around. Finally, it was the man Perry that threw the pass, but he's lost possession, and Freestone tidies up for the Dragons. They're inside their own quarter line. We're into the final 30 seconds. St George, a chance, and quite justifiably, I think, after their performance in 85, where they played 26 matches and lost just 2. They won the minor premiership by 13 points. They won their major semi-final by 14 points to 2 over Cronulla. But they've had to struggle every bit of the way here this afternoon at the Sydney Cricket Ground. But they're just 10 seconds away from a premiership win after being defeated by Parramatta last year. The crowd counting it down. The players know it. It's all over. St George are the minor and major premiers for 1985. They've won the grand final by 24 points to 20, and it was mainly through the efforts of Flanagan, who scored that vital try just 9 minutes from full time. Wayne Pearce, what a way to start grand final day off on Network 10.
That was a great game, it really was. I'm sure it's not, it wasn't according to the script that Coach John Jansen had written, but it was a big win by St George. They came back from behind, defied the odds towards the end there, and you know, all credit to them. And if you look at their efforts during the year, I think that they fully deserved that win today.
Well, in 1963, they had 3 teams in the grand final. On that occasion, they went on to win all 3. To follow on South Sydney in 1925. But the man of the match is in a losing side as far as our judging is concerned, and it goes to a young man who made a tremendous impact on this grand final, kept Parramatta in the game with 2 tries, had a hand at another, and that's 19-year-old, the boy from Canley Vale, Ryan Jackson. Here's Graham Hughes with the presentation.
Thanks, David. Ryan, I know you're a disappointed man, but it was a great performance by the Eels.
Yeah, we almost had it. A few drop balls and let us down. But we played all right. Just a bit unlucky.
You must have been happy with your own game. I know how disappointed you are.
The first half was all right. A few missed tackles, but I'll try and work on it.
Well, Brian from NEC, $250, and also at the NEC Game Ball Trophy.
Thanks a lot. I'd like to thank NEC and Channel 10. Thanks a lot.
Okay, well played.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Parramatta's Brian Jackson, our man of the match. Here's Tony Peters of the St George Leagues Club.
Graham, the atmosphere out here is just absolutely unbelievable. I can't even hear myself speak. They've got the first leg of the trifecta. They've got 2 to go. It's just like going to a wedding. Absolutely incredible noise out here. Compared to Canterbury this morning, it's like a wedding compared to a funeral. They are just absolutely off their brains out here. Listen to that. Completely blocking me out. I can't say a thing. If this is a sign of things to come out here, you wouldn't believe what's going on out here. Absolutely incredible. The heat is on. The heat is on.
Yes, David, it's something which I haven't experienced yet with my club, Balmain, but you know, I'm sure that these St George players will be having a few soda waters afterwards to certainly whet their appetites.
Well, what a moment for the replacement player Flanagan that came on. I think that's one thing he'll remember for a long, long time, that the match-winning try so close to full-time.
Well, TV Ted Ellery became a legend back in 1974 in the MK Cup. He used to come on and score tries, and well, Flanagan's done the same today, and you can't go any better than scoring the winning try in a grand final.
Well, is that a good luck omen for St George? Can they get the trifecta here at the Sydney Cricket Ground on grand final day 1985? There it is, the Under-23 Championship Trophy. And they led in triumph by their captain, Mike McClintock. Today, he kicked 5 goals. And a tremendous performance. The crowd going berserk. There's plenty of red and white banners on the hill. And I'm sure they'll pay tribute to a champion side. There it is, dragon dominance and skill. And I think that really typifies the St George block. Can they make it 3 in a row today? We've got more action coming up later today. Billy J. Smith will be joining me and Bill Anderson for the reserve grade match. That's the clash between St George and Canberra, who make their first ever grand final appearance at the Sydney Cricket Ground today. And I know that the national capital will be waiting in great expectation for a great performance from the Canberra Raiders here this afternoon. But there it is, the red and white flag, and there's some photos that will be in those scrapbooks for many, many years to come. We'll take a break as we enjoy the St George fever here at the Sydney Cricket Ground. As I mentioned, reserve grade to come. You're watching Network 10 sports coverage of Grand Final Day 1985.